I'm Teresa Carraggio, and this is Third Paradigm. Today, I'm recording out of my childhood home, and I'm going to share some artifacts from that time and some stories. But in particular, I want to talk about being here, sorting through things, listening to Russell Brand. Because my title today is 7 Million Awakening Wonders, which is what Russell always called his subscribers. I would like to defend not Russell Brand, but the rest of us, the other 7 million. Let's do this. This is the house that my parents moved into when I was 2 months old. And this is one of the original bears that I conducted school with on the front porch. Now, I think he came from my mother's era because he has the fine German name of Snickelfritz. But Snickelfritz was not my favorite. I don't know whether my favorite might be in the scary attic, which is the last place that I have not explored in this house. And I just opened it up and I'm hoping there's something up there other than old lawn chairs. My favorite was Egberta, a one-eyed bear, and I'm looking for Egberta still. I shared this room with my grandmother, who had left my grandfather when my dad was in high school, causing him to not be able to use the GI Bill when he got out of World War II in order to go to college. I don't remember how long that went. I know that half of the year she spent with other cousins and was always telling us how nice those cousins were, and I heard from them later that she said the same thing about us when she was there. But I know that I was old enough that I was reading The Lord of the Rings hanging out of my room by the hallway light so that I could have just enough light to be able to read that because I was possessed. I mentioned recently on a comment thread that I was insufferable in middle school. I had a teacher who had us hand in index cards for everything we read, and I discovered that I could read short stories and plays in a fraction of the time. And so I read all of Shakespeare. I remember sitting on this floor and writing an epic poem in the style of Homer's Iliad. And then I ended up reading Oscar Wilde, and I adopted the affectations of Oscar Wilde so that I remember saying something about the cheerleaders being people who just couldn't think for themselves, and they all stopped talking to me for the next 2 years. Then in high school, I was cast as a character in a play. In Woody Allen's Don't Drink the Water, I was a cutesy, quirky Greenwich Village type. And what I found is that if I stayed in that character, people actually knew how to relate to me. And they never had before. And so I became that character. This is my high school graduation photo from when I was a 99-pound weakling. Since this is the year of my 50th high school reunion, we'll have to see if any of them are talking to me yet. And because I keep it here, I'll also show you my favorite baby picture of my oldest, who is celebrating her husband's birthday today. I always thought the poverty of Cumberland was something I had narrowly escaped, and I never wanted to come back. And then, within 2 weeks of my husband moving out, my dad went into the hospital. This was January of 2016. And I drove in the worst blizzard that they have had around here to get back to this place, my childhood bedroom, where I was looking out at the same white sky through a sliver of window, where I was back saying, was it all a dream that I had these beautiful children, a career, a home, all of the things that maybe I never had at all? As my mom faced living alone for the first time in her 90 years, she wanted me to come back here. she would curl up on the bottom of the bed and say, "I just don't know how I'm going to do this." As that baby-faced daughter helped me decide that maybe if there had been a different relationship and she had ever wanted all of me rather than someone who filled that role of daughter, my decision might have been different. But as it is, I compromised. I came back frequently for long periods of time, but also found her, the woman who is the sister of my heart, who loved my mom and took care of her from up the street and developed a relationship that was what my mom really deserved. Over the next 6 years, after my dad died, eventually I moved my mom to assisted living, and then after that she went into a nursing facility. And I started working on this house and reclaiming it, going through 60 years of accumulation with piles of old canceled checks that would then have a picture of my dad from World War II. There was nothing that could be done quickly, and there was a lot of sorting out. Fast forward to 2020. I'm coming back. I can't even get in to see my mom at that point. I'm in a town where I have no friends, and I couldn't see them if I did. So I'm here by myself, just going through past lives. Some of them mine, some of them not. And while I'm doing that, I'm listening to Russell Brand. I'm listening to his biographies. I'm listening to his play that he wrote. I'm listening to his Luminary podcast in particular. And that is something that's keeping me grounded, that's keeping me connected with other people and letting me see that I am not alone. Around Thanksgiving in 2020, they finally opened back up the nursing facilities for visitors, and my daughters and I came to be able to see my mom. But at the time that we came, they closed them down again for what they called the worst outbreak that had ever happened, which I will link my episode showing why I believe that was eugenics. When she died in December, I came back for the funeral, and it was eerie. My mom ended up being buried in a body bag with the dress that she had picked out for the funeral draped on top of it. She had fewer people in the church than were the hired pallbearers and the ones that were on the altar. And my mom lived for the church. She was very popular there. It wasn't right. And after the funeral, to which my younger brother didn't come because he was afraid they wouldn't let him back into Germany without being vaccinated, and my older brother came, wore a mask, sat at the opposite end of the pew, and left immediately after the burial. I came back to this house entirely alone. My handyman's wife had him drop off some flowers for me, but that was the only person that I saw during that entire visit. It was very strange, very eerie, and once again, what I got back into is going through and sorting through the debris of a life, the detritus of a life, and listening to Russell Brand. I feel like I've been browbeaten into denying Russell Brand, particularly by Matthew Crawford, and just admitting that I am gullible, an idiot, foolish, someone who falls for a guy with a half-unbuttoned shirt. But then I found out that Mary Poindexter McLaughlin also listened to Russell Brand, and I could not believe any of those things about her, because Mary has such discernment. She is one of the most grounded people I know. She is a genuine magnet for someone who can recognize those qualities in others. So that gave me the courage to say, all right, I can't defend myself, but I can sure as hell defend her and the other 7 million awakening wonders. Some of the people with the most integrity that I know are the viewers who came to me through Russell Brand. Gan from Maine, Maria from Australia, Lindsay from Scotland, who gave me the phrase socio-spirituality, Joey from Utah. It's why I will not give up my YouTube channel unless they make me, because that's my connection to those people and all the others that I found through that common bond. And what I realized from that is that the PSYOP isn't these people who are controlled opposition. The PSYOP is making us doubt ourselves by, instead of saying, well, I agree with that thing that this person said, and I still believe that, even though that person may have been discredited. Instead, it makes us say, oh my God, how could I have ever trusted that person? You shouldn't trust anyone to tell you how to think. Instead, trust yourself. And when you find that person you resonate with, make sure you're still challenging things that you don't resonate with. But do not question yourself for what you recognize as the truth, because all they have to do is take the truth and plant it in someone's mouth who then they discredit. And that makes us all say, oh, well, you just can't trust anyone. Francis Leader has also made this point about the 60s and the counterculture revolution, and how all of the writing about that being a PSYOP is once again making us doubt ourselves. No matter what it is that they did, there was something that we recognized. Our anti-war fervor was real and courageous. And that's not something that we should reject or say that was never really what they were thinking. And even our psychedelic experiences, of which I do not have any, by the way, that made people recognize that the world is not what it seems. And the conversations that people had. This is not something we should dismiss just because they tried to control it. To follow up, this is Cui Bono COVID, Who Benefits on the Culling of the Elderly. And this is my playlist on Russell Brand, which has, I think, 51 videos in it, so that you can tell me where I was naive. Thank you for watching.